The following podcast is being brought to you by the Defy Life Podcast Network.
Welcome to Aftergate, powered by the Defy Life Network.
Are y'all ready?
Aftergate is a podcast series highlighting Colgate alumni of color in their professional endeavors Aftergate.
Are y'all ready?
Aftergate is hosted by Alvin Glimpf, aka Al, and Herman Dubois, aka Jerry.
Are y'all ready?
We are doing Aftergate because Colgate University has produced innovators who have changed the world every day. Yet many alumni of color and the mainstream Colgate community are unaware of the amazing accomplishments of alums of color.
Are y'all ready? Welcome. This is another episode of Aftergate. This is season 2. As always, this is your boy Alvin Glimpf, and I'm trying my best to hold in the excitement. We talk sometimes. These are conversations where we have the opportunity to speak to new people. We have the conversation sometimes with people that we were on campus with. Sometimes we have the opportunity to have conversations with people we were on campus with. And I really appreciated getting to meet them, know them. And in this case, I haven't seen and spoke to this person in decades. So I'm so excited. This is exactly why we do Aftergate. But before we do that, let me introduce my co-host, my man, Mr. Herman Dubois. What's due, Jerry? How you doing?
All is well. Still on this high, closing out 2022.
Yes.
Have much to be grateful for and wanting to just embrace that spirit of gratitude into 2023.
Yep.
And keep riding that wave.
Well, speaking of gratitude, let me see. How was your holidays? Like, just making sure all is well. Happy birthday. Happy belated birthday.
That's right. Thank you. You know, my birthdays always tend to get overshadowed by Thanksgiving, but I've been traumatized by that since I was a child. It was like, here's some turkey. Oh, and we'll sing a quick happy birthday to you at the end for next to the sweet potato pie and the dessert. But it's all good. I've always had to celebrate it with my dad, as our birthdays are a week apart.
Yep.
So again, birthday was low key this year. Timing had a lot going on, transition, so wasn't able to get up to New York. And didn't do anything crazy out here that involved bottles or festive activity, but just kept it in self-reflective mode and introspection, and looking forward to the next 365 days of life.
Awesome. So, one, I just think back 365 days ago, what my life was like, right? And so there's been an amazing evolution since then, personally, things going on with my wife, job, all is good, right?
Yeah,
a year later. But then you also mentioned sweet potato pie, so I got to take this opportunity to shout out Crust Studios.
Yes, AOC, in case you don't know, one of our
Janine Davison Walker, recent guest. I ordered a sweet potato pie and a sweet potato pound cake. Shout out to Crust Studio. Okay. It was delicious. It was prompt. It was well packaged. And so for those who heard the previous episode, check her out, show her some love, because I'm here to testify. And she hasn't even become one of our sponsors yet. Mm-hmm. But I'm here to give her a little love to say her product and her process and delivery is on point. So shout out to Crust Studios.
That's a big deal coming from a culinary guru that you've become. You know, I mean, you've always had that capacity. Cats don't know about, Glimpf's Catering Company and a grill near you. You know,
right. So, but real recognize real. Got to show love when people come correct, right? And so that's another reason we do Aftergate, to make sure we are using this weekly podcast as we interview alumni of color from Colgate. We want to highlight their accomplishments after graduation, but also we want to make sure we are leveraging this network to support all of our endeavors. So, my man, do I have your blessing to invite our guests for this week into the room? Is that all right? Can I get your blessing on that?
You have beyond las bendiciones que hay. This is a long-awaited, scheduled, rescheduled, scheduled again, apologized, scheduled, guest. So we are excited to have her on the show. So please do, my brother, welcome her to the living room.
Let me bring her into the room. So, Aftergate family, brothers, my sisters, it is an honor of ours to invite into the room the one, the only, Lorraine Martinez Ross, class of 1993, is in the building.
Hi, so excited.
So it's good to hear your voice.
Same. Good to hear from you. Good.
Yes.
So we thank you for your persistence and commitment to being a guest. We have had some folk in the past that we've had these challenges with just getting on each other's calendar, and then there's a little momentum and then it's lost, and kind of we missed the opportunity. And then we've had a handful of those who are like yourself, just been continuous with just making sure that we got on the calendar, and better later than never. So thank you for squeezing us in. We know you got a busy lifestyle, and we appreciate your time and energy.
Thank you for having me.
That's what's up. So for those who just might be extra dense and might not get it, that we have a history with this sister. So we always like to provide a little context in terms of how do we know each other, so that folks know, they can get ready and say, do they know each other? This brand new? This is not brand new. You were on campus with us. You came in, I guess we were juniors. Am I getting that right?
2 years apart.
2 years apart, right? So awesome that we have this opportunity since we spent 2 years on campus together. So that's good to know. And I know y'all know each other even before Colgate. So I'd like to let you I'm gonna let you handle this segment, my man.
So what folks don't know, and I don't think many folks know this, even who were in our circles when we were on campus, was that we go back to childhood. Our families were very much connected, and funny how we were connected to the arts, and through our early elementary years in schooling. And so Lorraine and her sister were heavily involved in a local sort of dance academy, of which my sister and cousin attended. And so we're talking like young elementary, like the first tutu and first ballet shoes and first leotards, and it was an all-girls academy. This was at a time when, let's just say, it wasn't as socially accepted and popular for boys to be. And so they may have had a pop-up boy once in a blue moon who was someone's nephew.
We did one, yes.
Kid, I was like, how this kid got in this program? But, I was, at every rehearsal and every event and every show, and every once in a while I got a chance to work the stage curtains and the lighting and backstage stuff, and so our families actually began to really just through the years evolve. I actually have a photo in second grade at my first communion with her sister.
Oh wow!
Partner, and so that's how back we go. And then the years go on, and we lose contact and then Lorraine and I reconnect in high school, and had our high school romance going on for a while. Then I left for Colgate, and she remained in high school, which were all girls. We'll talk about her high school experience.
Yes.
Under, I still have trauma from those visits to the. And then, and we talked about this on our previous shows, in our efforts to return to New York, speak to various high schools as student admission folk. Lorraine had without a doubt, had the academic qualifications, and remember having some conversations with her and her family just about Colgate and what I had been experiencing. And lo and behold, she applied, was admitted, and ended up at Colgate. And I remember her visit to campus at that point and just being like, okay, I see you, great move. And at that time, I'm a junior now. So I was on the second half of my Colgate, which for those who know me, my first half and my second half were very different, very, very, in so many ways, which we'll get into later in the show. But so yeah, so that's the context of this young lady here, who I am always been connected, and the family's got mad love, even though I too have not seen her in decades.
Yes.
Did I miss anything there? Did you want to?
No, that's everything. Not at all.
Everything.
And it's funny, I would never have considered Colgate had you not talked to me about it. It's not a place that was on my radar. Coming from the all-girls school, I was more looking at like bigger schools, I guess. I never thought a rural campus, small in middle of upstate New York, it just wasn't at all on my radar until you talked to me about it. And I went to visit and I thought, okay, I could probably see myself here, maybe, so, and no regrets. No regrets. It was honestly the best 4 years of my life. I say it all the time awesome. To anybody. It really was.
Love it. What I really remember is him, because by the time you get there, me and him are road dogs. We're like homies then. And he's like, okay, so, just letting you know who's coming up and just giving me the sense like, she's official. Our families, we go back. So she's in the crew. And it was just like automatically, it was just like, come on, you with us. Sweet individual, really nice person, authentic, just as I'm just remembering, like,
Thank you.
I remember Lorraine. It is all good. And my wife, she smiled.
Love Gina. Hi, Gina.
As I told her who the guest was tonight, she was like, instant smile. So that is that's our impression and what you left with us, even though we haven't seen each other.
And is it too soon to say Earlville was one of my favorite places to be? It was such a homey, it was really such a good, comfortable place to be. I was happy when I spent time there with you guys, but yeah, maybe that's for later.
We'll get into Earlville. We'll get to Earlville.
But just to put it, that just gives you deeper context, because Earlville was very much on a need to know basis. Folks had heard of it. Some wondered if it was a myth. Was it in Hamilton? Where's this Earlville? How do you get there? And so the fact that you referenced Alvin's phone, we'll get deeper into Earlville later, but good times.
So let's go before Earlville. Let's go before Colgate. You come into Colgate. You're a class of 1989 high school. Right? You graduate high school.
Yes.
So take us back to that time in your life. What do you remember about the world? What do you remember about your world? Give us a sense of what high school is like. Paint the picture of, as you're coming into Colgate, what was life before Colgate for you?
So I went to an all-girl high school, Cathedral, and it was very much mixed, like, Latino, African-American, Asian, white. It was completely mixed school. I grew up in the projects, the now Sonia Sotomayor houses, Bronxdale projects then. Yes. So my whole experience was being around people of color. But I got to tell you, when I went to Colgate, I didn't go through the Office of Undergraduate Studies, which a lot of people have. I don't, a lot of the newer people, I guess, once that office was created, came through that program, and I didn't. So when I first got to campus, I felt like I was sort of at a disadvantage because it seemed like, everybody knew each other, at least in the community of color, and I was an outsider. So I was extremely uncomfortable. And my first memory was, there was a week we had to go up for freshman weekend, and they had people eat lunch at Frank Dining Hall, like based upon your geographic location, so that you can meet people that you could drive home with. So I see everybody who went through the OUS program, everybody sitting together, and I'm like, I have no idea who they are. And not to shout anybody out, but nobody really said, hey, who are you? Come in. The only person, and it was because Jerry had mentioned for her to look out for me, was Pat Weston, who I haven't seen in years. God bless you, Pat, wherever you are. I should reach out and find you. But she came and said, hey, are you Lorraine? Jerry told me to look out for you. So she actually ended up sitting with me and talking with me and stuff. But I remember calling my mom after that weekend, and I was just like, I can't stay here. I don't want to be here. I'm not comfortable. And Puerto Rican mom was like, I'm coming to pick you up. Just tell me when to be there. I'm coming to get you. And I was like, okay, wait, let me just give it a couple more days and see what happens. And then by then you guys started coming onto campus. And so then I started meeting more people, thankfully through, you know, of course, through Jerry and then a couple of other upperclassmen. And then the experience just got a whole lot better. But I just felt like an outsider to begin with because I wasn't in OUS. And then eventually, you know, I got into the community and, you know, managed to join activities. But it was weird. My whole freshman year was weird because I didn't live, the dorm I lived in was down the hill. It was, oh gosh. Cotton, yes, Cotton, right? Right, with a bunch of upper class people, right? So there weren't a lot of people of color. The only one I remember on my floor was Katie McFall. It was Katie McFall, Veronica's sister. Yeah, so she was on my floor, but she was still an upperclassman. And I was like, I'm trying to navigate college life, trying to figure out where I fit in. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. So at one point, people were rushing. Hey, we're going to rush these sororities. And I'm like, okay, everybody on my floor in my dorm is doing this. Is this something I should be doing? And I did. And it was weird. I'm like, this feels weird. And Jerry's not going to remember this, but there was one day I'm walking into one of like the sororities, like walking towards one of them with a bunch of girls. And he thought I needed a ride or something into town. Hey, can I give you a ride? And I'm like, I'm going right there. And the look on his face was like, okay.
What the hell are you doing that for?
That's what your face said. But you didn't say, hey, don't do this. It was kind of like, okay, I guess she's got to figure out things for herself. And that was even more bizarre. I was like, this is not. So again, it was trying to fit in somewhere. I didn't know where to fit in because like I said, everybody had their group because they came together in the summer. I'm trying to fit in with the people in my dorm and trying to find my way. So that whole first semester was really weird. And I think by the time the spring semester came around, that I started joining activities like the Latin American Student Organization, Latin American Dancers, things of that nature. That's when I felt like, okay, this is my community. This is where I'm happy. And then once I found La Casa, that's it. Sophomore to senior year, I stayed there. That was home. So, yeah.
Going back a moment to the question that Alvin asked about context. Yeah. Share a little bit about for folks who don't know where you're from, don't know the Bronx, don't know the parochial school, because you went to school in Manhattan, so there was a whole nother borough of experiences. And then how did that shape you as a Latina, as a Puerto Riqueña, coming out of the Bronx, ending up at Colgate, in terms of how your political views were, dealing with also that first year shock of where do I fit in? I wasn't part of OUS. Share a little bit of that experience.
So, I mean, my whole life was just being around Latinos. It wasn't a thing of, you know, that I had a particular politics. That was just me. That's who I hung out with. That's who my family was. That's who my friends were. That's what I was accustomed to. And I got to tell you, and coming from the projects, right, the Bronx projects, I never felt myself to be poor. Never thought I was poor. When I got to Colgate, it was like, oh my God, I am poor. Like, I don't know if anybody else experienced that, but it just was never on my radar. Like I said, I was in this, even though it's the city, even though I went to school in Manhattan, it was like a small community. I was very insulated into this community. And again, until I went there and I realized how other people were living, that's when I was like, wow, people say culture shock. We've heard that a lot. It really was for me. Not just the rural aspect of it, the cows and the, you know, being in that kind of environment, but just being around people that had a lot of money, had a lot of means, something I wasn't accustomed to. So, and then again, like trying to fit in, where do I fit in here? You know, with the community of color, where am I supposed to fit in? Am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? So that whole, like I said, that whole first semester was difficult. And I didn't really get into the politics at home or at school until I started joining organizations and, you know, meeting people. And, you know, that's when the activist came out of me at Colgate. Yeah. You know, there was a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we had Rodney King going on when I was on campus. We marched for that. It got to a point where we were trying to still get students of color to come to the school, recruit professors of color. That was during the time that we seized the La Residencia Hispánica sign and changed it to La Casa Pan Latina America, so Americana, to encompass who we were. So it was a fun time, a crazy time, you know, but we were trying to shed light on the fact that we need a little bit more on this campus than what the mainstream was and what the majority was. And I think, you know, I'm not keeping as many tabs, but it sounds to me like at least maybe this incoming class is going to be a little bit more diverse than it's been in the past, which I think is a great thing.
Shout out to Pat Weston, another
Yes, Pat.
right, another good person.
Also
that
a Florendo grad.
Right. Jerry
Yes.
connects me like, yo, here's another real one, another one, good person. Shout out to La Casa. I stayed there my sophomore year and definitely played, as we mentioned a lot about HRC and the role that it played in terms of giving people a safe haven on that campus. La Casa is same thing. And my sophomore year, it was awesome to have the opportunity not to be around in a small, intimate setting, students and learning and engaging, but also in a home, and so that in itself was different compared to the dorm and other life. So shout out to La Casa.
Absolutely, yes.
So how about the academic transition? How did that play out in terms of academically coming on campus?
I don't think I had difficulty with the academic transition. It was more, I think, speaking up in class. Because a lot of times I found that I was the only person of color, the only one that was different. So where I think I could have spoken up, where I feel like I had something to contribute, I found that a lot of times I didn't, because I felt uncomfortable in that environment, because there was nobody else like me. But when I was in a class that had, I guess, more students of color, then I felt more comfortable. But I think that's where the difficulty was, just not really speaking up when I probably should have and could have.
Did you work at all? Any employment? Did you work at just curious, what'd you do there?
I did, as part of, like my financial aid package. I worked at the admissions office. So that wasn't too bad. Yeah, stuffing envelopes and doing stuff with admissions, and that was a lot of fun. So that was actually, I think, a decent job to have on campus. But that's what I did. But again, it was part of my whole financial aid package that I had to work and do that. So a couple of hours a week here and there, and that was it.
I could never prove the reason, but I always felt some kind of way about you not going to the OUS experience. Not only for the friendships or the connection to folks before the school year started, but for the academic, I guess, orientation that was provided. And my theory has always been that you came from such a strong academic base that however they had number of slots available for OUS scholars was really targeted for those who maybe didn't demonstrate that same academic promise in high school, or maybe did, but parochial private school standards and New York City public school standards, are very different. And so being the academic, I guess, focus for why all we went to Colgate, but not realizing how much we were out of our league in many ways. I remember first and second year really having to learn how to be a student according to Colgate standards. And the fact that you didn't have that challenge, that's pretty a great tribute to your high school preparation.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I mean, I was a nerd in high school, so could I have studied more? I'm not going to lie. I mean, of course, I probably could have studied more. There was a lot going on. Like, it's a big transition, but I don't feel like I struggled academically. I think when I had to buckle down, I felt that I could do that. So, and I did well. I did well enough. I was able to go on a study group too. I did a study group to Spain. Not one that a lot of Latino students took advantage of, or my whole group, it was just me. But we paired up with Vassar and Wesleyan, and that's where I found a whole group of Latina, African American, and Asian women, and that's who I hung out with mostly when I was in Spain. But that wasn't a study group that students of color traditionally went on. But I was a double major, so Spanish literature was one of my majors, and that's why I went to Spain my junior fall. Yeah, junior fall.
You said double major, so what was the other?
Sociology. Yeah, SOAN. It was SOAN, Sociology, Anthropology.
Gotcha. So when you look, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna say that I always reference not taking advantage of any of the, or not being able to take full advantage of the study abroad programs when I was at Colgate. But for those who know, my quasi study abroad experience was visiting this young lady in Madrid when she was out there, and I was already, it was post Colgate for me, and so we had a guest on the show who actually leveraged a study abroad program that Colgate paid for after she graduated, and I was like, oh, how did she do that?
Wow, mind blowing.
Yeah, totally. So I'm still trying to see if I can get on that program, but yeah, and so talk a little bit about the abroad and returning, and how that may have impacted how you saw Colgate, how you saw yourself at Colgate. Did that change your direction post Colgate?
Yeah, I guess it did, because for a period of time, again, I found that community of color, and that's where I stayed. I was living in La Casa, so that was my community. But being on this study abroad program in Spain with the other students that, majored in Spanish, that were like the mainstream white students, I felt like I opened up a little more to that community, to the point where we come back from Spain. I'm co-director of the Latin American dancers that spring. All of a sudden, people from my study group, like most guys and the gals, they joined, and they wanted to learn about, I don't know how or why, maybe because it was from Spain, they were in Spain, they wanted to learn more about our culture. So, hey, let's join Latin American dancers. Let's go to La Casa parties. We had a few of them that showed up. So I felt like, I guess it maybe opened me up more to the community, to sort of like, not teach people, but instead of staying in my little world, just kind of like, let me branch out, let them know what we are about, what Latinos are about, not just the European Spanish people, but what we are about. And I feel like people embrace that a little bit. So I was like, I was like the ambassador, I guess. I don't know.
The ambassador. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I just had a flashback. You laughed the same, you smiled the same.
That's right, and I haven't aged. Let's not forget.
I feel like I'm in Earlville right now, sitting around.
I know, that was fun. That was just so fun. But anyway,
it was,
it was a good supportive place to be too. I mean, you guys were great. Anybody who went to hang out there, we talk about La Casa being home. That was another home for me. Whether it was I was studying or hanging out or doing work or just, whatever, it felt like a second home to me. And I loved spending time there. You guys were great. I'm not saying that because you're here and interviewing me. I'm just saying, the whole group. Gina was great. Steve was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Earlville.
Earlville. Shout out to Earlville. And to your point, Jerry, there might be 10, maybe 15 people could say they know what Earlville really was about, because we were really selective in terms of everybody. Some people didn't even know where the house was, right? So intentionally.
I feel honored.
Membership has its privileges.
It was for
yes,
us.
yes.
So I'm curious, when you look back at your 4 years, what are highlights? What would you refer to as accomplishments for those 4 years? Because you said it's the best years of your life. So what did you accomplish, either academically, personally, just all of that?
I think personally, by the time I left, like I started off, like I said, very quiet, shy, trying to find my place. By the time I left, I was a lot more assertive, a lot more able to join. I guess even leaving college, just feeling like I could join groups. Like when I went on to law school, I became the president of the Latin American Law Students Association there. But I think a lot of it started from Colgate. And it wasn't just being, Latin American dancers, or I was the vice president of the Latin American Student Organization, as it was called at the time. But I also joined other groups and I remember, I think Dimension had said this in one of his podcasts. He was the president of the Budget Allocation Committee. I was on the committee with him at that time too, because we knew, okay, we have to be on these committees if we're going to try to get our activities. If I'm going to be the ambassador and show people what we do and what we are about, we have to make sure we can fund our activities too. I joined that. I joined the Student Affairs Board, and that was, it was professors and there was a dean at the time, and I was one of the students. I was on the Minority Affairs Board. I got involved as much as I could because I wanted to, I guess, try to make sure everybody understood, like, hey, we need more students of color. We need more students like us. We have a contribution to make to this school that's pretty much all white, that most people never saw a person of color until they went to Colgate, you know? It's like I never saw that many white people in one place until I went to Colgate. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think it was just joining and learning, I guess, getting my voice in a way. That
and you were an RA as well, weren't you?
I was an RA, a La Casa RA. I tell you, I didn't leave there. Sophomore to senior year, that was it. And I became an RA at La Casa too, because it was that important to me. That place was that important to me. And again, we had other students. It wasn't just Latino students who lived there, African-American students. We had a few white students who would trickle in and live there too. And they wanted to be a part of, you know, the culture and learning more. And hey, you're more than welcome, you know? I'd rather you see what it's really like than think you know what we are and who we are, you know? So.
That's what's up. I loved it.
That's right.
You mentioned you were a double major. I'm curious, how did that happen? How did you pick SON? How did you evolve to be those majors?
So the sociology classes, I think I don't remember the first one that I took. I guess it had to be intro, and I seemed to like it, but I was also, you know, I grew up bilingual, completely bilingual. So I took Spanish, AP Spanish class in high school. I had won some, you know, Spanish language contests when I was in high school too. So it seemed natural to take Spanish, except this wasn't language, it was literature. So I started taking one class and then I continued on. And then when you go to Spain, that was, we had to read the book Don Quixote. So it was like a whole, that was part of the reason a lot of people went to Spain, because you actually studied the book while you were there. And before you knew it, I had enough credits that I was like, okay, I could double major in both. And then sociology was just the interest in, I guess, people in society. And, you know, that always interested me. What's your story? Everybody has a story. What's your story? You know, sociology wasn't exactly that, but it came the closest to me for that. So that was the major that I was going for. Spanish just kind of came because I had enough credits. And because I did the study abroad in Spain, I ended up with a whole lot more that I was able to double major.
Was there a favorite professor of yours in either of your majors?
Of course, Professor Rojas, and she was the director, you know, at the study abroad program in Spain. I loved her. I know people have mentioned, I think somebody had forgotten, I think it was you, Jerry, had forgotten Professor Bryce Laporte. You were trying to remember his name. I'm screaming it out, but you can't hear me. I was like, Bryce Laporte. And you're like, I can't remember his name.
Yes.
But he was, you know, and he had written a recommendation for me too to go on to grad school, because I went to grad school right after Colgate. And I liked sociology so much, I went for applied sociology, social policy to grad school. And he was, you know, somebody that I talked to a lot that sort of guided me down that path. Yes, see, I was screaming it, but you couldn't hear me.
I love it. So we're going to take a pause right there so that we can show some love to our sponsor, but we'll be back to finish up this part of this conversation with Lorraine Martinez Ross on the second half. Thank you. So this episode is sponsored by Hope Murals. Hope Murals is a nonprofit that provides adolescent youth with an interactive experience of creative expression via an urban arts platform that stimulates both mental and physical development. Please visit their website at www.hopemurals.org to learn more and find ways you can support the work they do. 3, welcome back. I am still excited as we have this conversation with Lorraine Martinez Ross. Hey, class of 93, what's good? But before we go back to the conversation, let's make sure we show some love to our sponsor, Hope Murals. Much love to Hope Murals. Make sure you show them some love. Learn more about their organization, hopemurals.org. For those who don't know, Hope Murals is all about exposing our youth to urban arts and just helping them with their development, become much better individuals. So check them out, show them some love on their website as well as at Hope Murals social media. Show some love to our network, the Defy Life Network at godefylife.com. You can find some real interesting, empowering content on their site. Check out their podcast hub, defylifepods.com. They got a lot of dope podcasts besides Aftergate on that website, so check that out as well. And I'm gonna pass the mic to my co-host so that he can lead us into the second half of the conversation.
Welcome back, fam. Great opportunity for us to engage in a conversation with the illustrious Lorraine Martinez Ross, class of '93. One of the living,
always Martinez.
One of the living legends. Oftentimes, I feel that we don't get a chance to really delve into personal matters on the show because we talk so much about Colgate and our professional careers, and something that's near and dear to my heart is this world of parenting that all of us have experiences in. And I was just having a conversation with some folks recently about how much is too much access to technology. Here we live in a world where technology is supposed to make life easier and more efficient. And in certain ways, one would question, is it hurting our culture? Is it hurting the fabric of humankind, of engagement, at least as we knew engagement or the transitions of engagement? And so whether we talk about technology, internet, social media platforms, I'm always interested in hearing from other experienced parents how they manage to leverage both its power, but at the same time regulate and manage it in a way where it doesn't dominate and consume the life of our children. And so the floor is yours, Sister Martinez, to talk about sort of what's been your journey, what's been your experience. How do you see technology and social media in this realm, and what has been your journey with your young people about what is enough?
I'm still trying to figure that out. So I have a now 12-year-old. She turned 12 on the 25th. She was actually born on Thanksgiving 12 years ago. 12 Thanksgiving night, but I have a 12, a 14, and a 16-year-old, and I'm still trying to figure out what the right balance is. So the first thing I could say is thank God there was no cell phone, social media, none of that stuff when we were in college. Anyway, for lots of reasons, I'm glad that there wasn't. So I feel like there's not a lot of, face-to-face interaction. Nobody talks anymore. Everybody's always on a device. And honestly, I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I'm not on social media. I got off years ago because it just was something that didn't work for me. I know everybody puts their best face forward when they're on there, but it was something that after a while, it was like, I can't do this. It's just not good. I don't find it to be healthy. I'm on LinkedIn. That's all that I'm on. And I don't miss it, to be honest with you. But, then it gets to the point where I feel like I'm missing out on stuff, and my kids call me a boomer or whatever that is, because there's a lot of stuff I don't know and I'm asking them questions. But again, I don't miss it, but I find that they're on the devices a lot, but they also know that their grades are everything, right? So, okay, if you're going to play video games on the weekend, if you're going to be on your phone, then you got to have 90 or better. If you don't have 90 or better, what's going on? Then we have to, try to, what's happening here? Maybe you're on it too much. Maybe I need to take your time away from it. You got to do other things. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what the right balance is, because I don't want to be too lax with them, but I also don't want to be to the point where they're in the dark ages either. So that it's tough. It's really tough. But I'd rather them engage in other activities too. Like my 14-year-old is all about sports. So if he's looking at his phone, if he's on the TV, it's always watching basketball games. Basketball is his love. He just got home from a basketball game and just talked to me for half an hour about what happened with the basketball game, how much he scored, everything. So he plays football. He's my sports kid. So when he's on, I'm not as concerned because I know he's doing a lot of sports stuff. My oldest is my academic child. So he's the one that made the honor society. He's a little more like me when it comes to studies. So I find that I'm a little more lax with him because okay, you're the academic, your grades are good. You could be on a little bit more. And then my daughter who's 12, it's hard because, she's a girl. It's just different. I hate to say that. I'm not gonna get
specific,
but
I can't believe I'm hearing this.
I know. I can't believe I'm saying, but no, but it's just harder. There's just, I don't know. It's scary. I work in the court system and you hear and see a lot of things. So, it's scary because again, she's 12. So she's really just starting to ask for, hey, can I download this app or can I get that? Because, she needs parental permission before she downloads anything. So I'm always hesitant. What am I allowed to give you? What is this Snapchat? I got to look at this. So I worry about what's out there because my mind automatically goes to the worst case scenario. So again, I'm still trying to balance it myself. So if you had the answers, I'd love to know.
No. And, part of why I wanted to hear it, my children, a little older, 23 is my youngest, my daughter, son's 25. So definitely they were coming in, they had the social media. That was an issue. The internet was an issue, but it's, exponentially increased since they were, in a decade. So I'm interested to hear the perspective. I do value though that how you balance it or look at it as an incentive in terms of getting certain expectations in terms of behavior and performance. I do value that. I also value that they call you a boomer because my son uses that to describe me at times. And it's nice to know I'm not the only one being called a boomer around here.
Too. Yes, yes. I know it's a bad thing, but I'm like, whatever. I don't care.
Well, aside from the fact that none of us have been able to truly crack the code, so to speak, I do think that there needs to be some intentionality behind regulations because I now have a 4-year-old granddaughter and she is savvy with a cell phone, has her own tablet, and is able to not only manage the children's software that's on her tablet, but access anything else she wants to access at 4. And if that is the only engagement, you mentioned the word engage, or the only one of the primary outlets that they're having at that younger age, I have to wonder what their capacity will be to engage in the way we consider engagement by the time she's an adult, if it's been so heavily influenced by these devices that are available now. And so, and I'm trying to have a discussion with my daughter about the need to regulate that is although I have not been referenced as a boomer, it is looked at as what's wrong
You're
with you?
You're a grandpa, so you're definitely a boomer.
For the record, it's OG. It's OG. There's no grandpa. No, it's OG. Okay. Secondly, my daughter is like, Dad, things are different now than when you were parenting. Like it's okay now. Yes. It's acceptable. Let it go. And so I'm concerned. I have definite concerns.
Sure. Same.
Yeah. Here, even when do you give your child a phone? Is something that I'm up quite often in my house right here because my sister-in-law has a son. He's in 4th grade, maybe 5th grade, and his father just bought him a phone. And so it, for me, it was always, when my kids, they wanted a phone, for years before we would say yes. My thing was like, but you're always around adults. What you need a phone for? Like, if you need to call me and I'm not around, ask an adult. Trust me, they will give you the phone so you can call me. You don't need a phone. Like, you ain't out there by yourself. You're always around an adult. And so it's always that tension of other people are allowing their kids are getting phones at 3 and 4 or whatever.
Exactly. And then your kids in the dark ages. That's hard.
Peer pressure.
I would always tell them, like my mother used to tell me, but you don't live with that family. You live with this family. So I don't really care what someone else's family's doing.
I say that all the time. Yep.
Thank you for sharing your insights on that. I'd like now to talk about what your life was like from graduation. If you could walk us through from graduation to how you became this amazing person, would really love to know what that professional journey was like to go from Colgate to where you are right now.
So it's funny, after I graduated, like I knew I wanted to go to law school. I kept saying I want to go to law school, but I didn't. So before graduation, I don't remember who presented it to me. It was like some kind of a flyer or something from American University. It was a new program, applied sociology, social policy. And I thought, wow, this sounds interesting. I'll be a policy analyst and move to Washington, D.C. This sounds good. So I did that. And I went for 2 years to grad school and I got a master's degree in applied sociology, social policy. listen, it was an interesting program. I got to do an internship with Department of Housing and Urban Development. My thesis was about supportive housing for homeless women, victims of domestic violence. But it was mostly analyzing programs at a computer. And I thought, oh gosh, this is really boring. This isn't what I want to do. Like, why didn't I go to law school? So it's funny looking back, would I have skipped the 2 years? Yeah, probably. It's crazy to say. I mean, I don't have regrets, but maybe I would have skipped grad school and just gone straight to law school. Because by the time I was finishing up grad school, I'm like, I always wanted to go to law school. Why didn't I just go? And I did. I stayed in DC. And honestly, I thought I would live in DC. But when it came time to take the bar exam, family's back here. I was like, I have to take the bar exam in New York. I want to practice law in New York. So that's what I did. I went from American, I went to Catholic University, did my 3 years in law school. And then I wanted to be, my internships were with the courts, with a judge, and at the Legal Aid Society. So first I was going to be this defense attorney, right? But while I was in law school, I worked at a families in the law clinic with women victims of domestic violence. And then I was like, I can't be a defense attorney because how do I defend somebody who's committed crimes against women or children? So that kind of, I switched gears a little bit. And then I went to work at the DA's office in the Bronx. My career has always been in the Bronx. Let me put it to you that way. My internships, I worked at the Bronx DA's office. I did my 3-year commitment there. Then I was offered a position with a judge to clerk for him. And interestingly enough, how I came to work for him, I mean, it's a very political position, but I got it because I had done a gun case in front of him. And he didn't believe any of the police witnesses that I put on the witness stand. So he suppressed the gun. And I was angry. I just remember thinking that I have no case. Like, he suppressed the gun. How could he not believe 3 of these police officers? So he then offered me a job when I was looking to leave, because he said, I saw how prepared you were. I said, but you suppressed my gun. Like, my case was over because of you. And he said, no, but I saw how prepared you were. He saw my work ethic and he offered me a position, and I haven't left the court system since. I was clerking for him, and then I became a referee it's now been, 2012, I became a court attorney referee, and it's a quasi judicial position. So I'm doing mostly matrimonial divorce cases. I listen to the evidence and I come up with, whatever custody, I address custody, child support, dividing marital property, spousal maintenance, which you all know as alimony. So that's pretty much what I do, or anything that a judge refers for a particular issue. I can, listen to the evidence and issue a report, or I can make a determination based upon, what the judge refers it for. So that's what I've been doing now. Since 2012, I've been a referee.
You started ADA for a little bit, did you?
I did, assistant DA for 3 years. Yeah.
Okay. You don't play that like, oh yeah,
I did. I started in criminal, and the judge that I worked for also was criminal, but then he switched.
Do you enjoy what you do?
So yeah, I mean, I do. I do, but it kind of stinks because you're sort of seeing people at their worst. So right now we're doing everything still through Microsoft Teams. So initially people would come to court in person, of course, and I'd be in the courtroom and everybody would file in. But since the pandemic, we moved to Microsoft Teams. So I mean, I basically, I'm going to work, 2-hour commute. I sit in my office and I'm doing everything through Teams. But what's good about it is a lot of times people had to miss either work or they had childcare issues and it was hard to show up to court. Now everybody pretty much shows up because you can take a break at work and show up for this hearing. Okay, I have a child support hearing. I need 30 minutes. You could take a 30-minute work break. If you have elder care issues, you could just, they could be sitting there and you could be, participating. So in a lot of ways it's been good, but a little unusual, I think too. But do I enjoy it? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been doing it this long, so.
How did you go from the criminal element into the family and now in divorce? And is there a backstory to that?
Well, so the judge that I worked for was all criminal. He did all criminal cases. And then he got it. I started with him in 2000, at the end of 2001. And I think right around 2003 or so, he was offered to switch to the civil side and do like, everything from, tort cases. It could be labor laws, slip and falls, not matrimonial. He wasn't doing matrimonial, medical malpractice cases. So he switched to the civil side, and then we did everything from guardianships. Oh, that's another thing I'm doing now. Guardianship cases too. I started with him then, and I'm doing them now. Also, that's where, you find that somebody, a loved one, a relative, somebody could be incapacitated, and then evidence is presented in the courtroom. Somebody gets appointed to be a guardian of their person, make healthcare decisions, personal decisions, guardian of the property, make financial decisions. So he did some of that. We did some mental hygiene stuff. We did a little of everything with him. So I was doing civil stuff from 2003 all the way throughout, and then when it came time to apply, I guess, for this position as a referee, it was understood that I'd be doing mostly matrimonial, and I do election cases too. See, I forget, I do a lot of different things, but we do election cases too. So when election time comes around, and you're trying to either keep people on the ballot or get them off the ballot for whatever reason, sometimes we have to do hearings to make sure that signatures are counted when they should be counted, and maybe discounted when they shouldn't be. So yeah, I do election law, guardianship, and mostly matrimonials.
If you had the opportunity to talk to Lorraine as she's entering college, what would be some of the words of wisdom you would share? And then also, if you could whisper in your ear as you're graduating college, what would you tell that student?
Oh, wow. I think going into college, I might have said, be a little more confident, have a little more self-confidence. Like I said, I was kind of reserved. I was kind of shy. I just, I came into that a little bit later, I think. So I think I would have said, have some confidence in yourself and trust your gut. Leaving Colgate, honestly, I would say, find a mentor. Find a mentor. Even now, even as a professional, I think it's so important to have a mentor. And I'm saying this, but I don't have a specific mentor, but I think somebody that you look up to, that, you appreciate the career choices that they made, that maybe you want to follow their steps. I think it's important to have that mentoring and network. That's something it's been really hard for me to work on too. Networking is so important. And there's still that little bit of reserved, shy person in me that, doesn't branch out enough to network. But I would tell her as she's leaving school, make sure you have a mentor, and make sure you're networking as much as possible, and stick with that all the way through the rest of your career.
What's been your level of engagement with Colgate since you graduated? Any alumni events, any homecomings, any reunions, any return on campuses? Any engagement at all since you left?
It's sad. No, I went to my 5-year reunion. I think that was it. And it's weird because I didn't have a lot of my friends were either years ahead of me or a year below me. I didn't have too many my year. And I realized that when I went for the 5-year reunion, I was like, there were like 2 people that I hung out with, and I was like, oh, this was great. But at the same time, I was like, I don't really know these people too much, which was really bizarre. But if if I could, if I did an alumni event with, like, say, your year and the year below you and the year below me, that's where, like, Melanie was one of my closest friends. She was a year below me. So yeah, I think I that's all I've done. I've only done that. I got to be honest with you. And I haven't gotten involved in the alumni of color like I probably should. I don't know why, but maybe this is, this podcast is what I need to say, hey, it's time for me to join up. And I do donate money. I do donate money when I can. And I do want my son, he's a junior now, we're looking at colleges. And I told him, you have to look at Colgate. Just look at Colgate. I don't think he wants to stay in the Northeast, but
and he's the ball player, right? He's the basketball
player. He's my academic.
Your academic.
Yeah, he's the academic one. So
there is a reunion this June, and that would be a good opportunity to return back to campus, as well as bring him, and so that he could see the campus. True. And you need to recognize
that you have a legacy opportunity, and there are not many alumni of color who have leverage the legacy opportunities that Colgate offers, and someone that we went to school with Kathy Robinson. She had two relatives that went to Colgate. And although it's not the same legacy line, it's still the fact that we oftentimes don't leverage the alumni powers that we have because we're first gen. So now we have that responsibility to establish that pipeline. And whether or not your son ends up going there or not, at least know that he needs to know it's an option.
Absolutely. So we will look, but so maybe I will take the opportunity during alumni weekend. Now, is that like other than the year reunion, is that an alumni of color reunion year?
It is they're recognizing something. It is something specific, and they're encouraging us to come back. So yes,
okay.
Yes.
Then I definitely should.
All right. Last question. Is there anything you would like to promote and share with our network just to raise the awareness and encourage the support of this network and listeners? Anything you want to share with us?
So nothing specific that I can promote. Like I said, I have a quasi judicial role, so I don't, take opinions on anything in particular, except that I'm trying to push more students of color to go to law school, because I've sat through enough classes and I've seen enough in the court system where they're still trying to. It's amazing, and like in 2022, we're still trying to get more Latino and African American lawyers and judges. It's sort of sad, I think, right? That we're, same thing I was trying to push when I was in college, we're trying to push that now at the law school level. So I think, for students who are there, definitely consider law school, not necessarily, public interest. That's what I wanted to do. Assistant DA, like that was where I wanted to go, but even, explore other areas, corporate law, things that you don't see too many people in these top law firms that look like us. You know what I'm saying? So definitely that's the one thing, if I could plug, I would. And I'm part of this Cafecito network of women of color. And I know they have something coming up that I do want to mention. It's called Latino Justice Lawbound. Applications are due December 9th. They have a program that's going from January 9th through January 13th. It's in New York. It's a hybrid program from 12 to 5 where they discuss, panel discussions with law students, practicing attorneys from different fields. They talk about the LSATs, how do you finance law schools? And, if anybody's interested, any Colgate students, it's for college students right now, but I think it's important that we do that so that, the legal profession looks, like a lot of other professions, because it's sort of sad that there are still so few of us.
Man, oh man, has this been awesome.
This is so good.
So just know, if you are ever in Atlanta, if you're ever in Miami, we will definitely love to see you, host you, go out, get a bite, whatever. Just know.
Sounds good. Well, when do people come to New York? Hello, do you not come to New York anymore?
We don't. We don't.
So messed up. So messed up.
No.
Wait, all the families are gone. Wait, Jerry, your whole family's gone.
My whole family is still in the Bronx. I'm
okay. And you don't visit anybody?
No. I sent plane tickets. I'm like, listen, there's.
I know.
If I had a choice of digging out the snow or digging out the sand, I'm choosing the sand.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't move because then I'd have to take the bar exam somewhere else, and I'm too old to study for anything and retain the material. So I'm stuck here till I retire. So I definitely want to go somewhere south when I can retire. That's for sure. Yes.
In the meantime, whenever you visit, if you
I will.
You got friends down here in the South.
Yes, definitely.
This has been another episode of Aftergate Season 2. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to our listeners. Aftergate is always powered by the Defy Life Network. Make sure you check us out in the future on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Know that there are many more dope episodes to follow. We are winding down Season 2, but we're taking a break for Season 2 over the holidays, and then Season 3 will be up and running in 2023. So many more dope episodes to follow. Also remember, the Colgate of your day is not the Colgate of today, and it's certainly not the Colgate of the future. Peace, family.
Shh. You hear that? Listen closer. That, my friend, is the deafening sound of focus. It drowns out all the useless noise that can clutter the moment. Naysayers don't exist. Haters? Smaters? The peanut gallery? Who's that? When you in your zone, all that noise and all that buzz is just elevator music. So, enjoy your journey, focus on your goal, and bask in the quiet roar that is progress. Because when it's your time to shoot that shot, spit that verse, or close that deal, the only voice that matters is yours. Defy life.